A long time has passed since Joseph Jacobson became the Egyptian pharaoh's supplies minister and imported his extended family to somewhere better fed than Canaan up north. Generations and rulers had come and gone. His descendants had done well for themselves and become jolly useful. After all, there were building projects everywhere. Pharaohs liked to leave their mark. But these were still considered foreigners, their ways not the same as homegrown labourers. Who did they think they were, coming over here and taking Egyptian jobs, building temples where they wouldn't worship? No matter that the locals preferred to be in charge and not toting that barge or lifting that bale. Immigrants needed to know their place and think themselves lucky. The thing is, there were just too many of them now, a tricky dilemma for the pharaoh. They'd still have been convenient if being productive wasn't inseparable from being reproductive. When food was often scarce, more foreign mouths to feed was unpopular. A cull, that would help. So he took steps, barbaric steps against the most vulnerable. It might have been these folks' ancestors who'd originally become lost and parted from their promised land, but never underestimate God. He doesn't forget, and a promise is a promise.
I was a little kid, so I saw nothing wrong with life in Egypt. You don't really understand how things are when you're small. Aaron, me, Pa and Ma, the tribe of Levi, one of Joseph's sons, were just an ordinary family. I didn't even realise we were different till a boy threw a stone at me as I sat in the house doorway. Spat, called me a filthy izzer. But things were weird when the baby came. Aaron and me used to play by the river in the evenings, so we didn't wake him. We went mudlarking, searching among the papyrus stems for anything valuable. Ma tried to keep Baba asleep till nightfall. She encouraged him to sleep during the daylight and blamed his occasional cries on the marauding cats, who usually lived under those vast temple carvings, human bodies with animal heads, Isis and Osiris, Thoth and Horus, like they were in a carnival procession. Ma and Pa were worried, talking in low Canaanite whispers after we were in bed, wondering how they could get Baba to safety. They thought we only understood Egyptian. Anyway, one evening we found this basket by the Nile. It was quite big, like brickmakers use. Suddenly, I remembered a story from our old country, far off between the rivers, how baby Sargon was launched in a floating, waterproof basket. We ran all the way home, me and Aaron lugging the basket between us. Ma! Ma! I shouted. Shh! Look what we got! Sargon in the basket, remember? The story passed down from old Father Abraham's days. Breathless, I reminded her how he was saved and grew up to become king. Ma turned to Pa. Someone might find him and save him. He's so cute. If we hide him near the bathing pool, some good woman might take pity. They made a basket lid over several nights, taking turns. One minding Baba, while the other woven waterproofed. Aaron and I had struggled to keep it in secret since Ma and Pa pretended he'd died, burying a small bundle of rags on the waste ground near the river. Our loved ones weren't allowed in this city of the dead. But now they must lose him for sure, and risk his life. Several babies have died between me and him. They hadn't even named him because they were so afraid he'd be killed. When the time came, they took him before first light, more Canaanite whispering as they tried not to wake us. I heard Ma sobbing and Pa praying softly to the God of promises as they sealed the lid and carried Baba's boat outside. Later, after Pa and Aaron had left for work, I grabbed some bread and an overripe date and said I was off to play with Becca. But I headed straight for the pool, and once I'd found the tiny ark, I hid. It seemed like forever. Several women missed him completely. But then this great troop arrived. Slaves carrying a curtain litter on poles, and maids. I didn't know who it was as she waded into the water. Then, suddenly, the ark began to cry. She spotted it at once and made the slaves pull it out. They all gathered round, amazed and curious. The minute the lid was off, Baba gave him his best dimpled smiles. He charmed them, never mind what he was. I crawled through the servants' legs, swallowed hard as I stood up, and shyly offered to find a nurse for him. Someone called the little lady Uranus, and I was stunned. She nodded and smiled as she lifted Baba up. So, your invisible foreign god has saved you, little one. I ran, as fast as my legs could carry me. I knew just the person, and Baba was coming home.
So, Moses, a threatened, hard-to-hide baby boy, became truly lost, then found, abandoned and regained in a curious sequence of events, pulled from potentially lethal waters, evading human and animal enemies. Just like Sargon the Great, a unique role awaited him to deliver all his people. It would not be the only time that water, carrier of both life and death, featured in a career to include perhaps the most telling event in the Israelite nation's history. Their circumstances are difficult and dangerous. There is little expectation of survival, let alone liberation. But once more, God, in due course, is as good as his word. He chooses an unlikely underdog to fight the oppressors of the people he loves, and he uses their powerful enemies to further his own agenda. Where else in Egypt will this despised expat be safer than growing up in the royal court? But just as with Abraham, the reversal of fortune will be neither swift nor smooth nor even altogether conclusive. The Israelites, like any fallible and fickle human being, still have much to learn, and we, their spiritual descendants, delivered often as unknowing babies from the waters of baptism, must also learn and choose. Shall we remain lost, or through following Jesus, a later Egyptian refugee, finally be found and brought home?